All right, so I had a subscriber send this over to me and suggest that I watch and give my commentary. And just to preface, just to set proper expectations, you're going to hear me speaking more than you're going to hear her speaking, okay? And so this video is by Keira Lhotan. And Keira, if you end up watching this at some point and it's pronounced Lhotan, my bad, girl. But yeah, we're going to roll with Lhotan. Seems right. But here, she's explaining that emotional availability is the new masculinity. Okay? And so, yeah, I always love it when women try to tell men what masculinity is. So this should be rich. Let's get into it.
A lot of men think that being emotionally available is just talking about your feelings all the time. Well, I'm here to clarify that being emotionally available is the new masculinity. If you have any personal situations with a woman, or you would just like to get a female's perspective on anything, I give one-on-one consultations in the description where I give you my full disclosure.
Okay, I'm gonna stop right there real quick. So do not book a call with her if you're a dude that is looking for a female perspective. Don't do it. You need to get a male perspective. All right. So book a call with me, not with her. All right. Let's keep it pushing.
But let's talk about emotional availability. A lot of men think that it's just being vulnerable and having emotions that you share with someone, or even crying, okay?
Do not cry in front of women. It's a bad look. There's so many reasons why you shouldn't. But yeah, never do that.
To clarify, women don't see emotional availability just as feelings or expressing yourself. Sometimes it's just getting to the truth. It's getting direct. And being direct as a man is quite honestly being the leader. As a man, women want you to know what you want. And if you don't know what you want, then you're kind of emotionally unavailable. It's like you're emotionally unavailable for yourself. You don't know what you want, you don't know what you need, and wants or needs are kind of emotionally driven. You know, you want something, you need something. It could be through emotions or even a physical need, right? But if you don't even know what you want, if you can't say what you want, if you can't give a woman your direct conscience of what you need in that very moment, she's going to see you as unsecure, not insecure, like you are thinking that you are not good enough or whatever the case may be.
I think what she's getting at is he's not a safe bet.
No, she's thinking you are not sure. You are questionable. You're questioning
Yeah.
yourself, so you're questioning everything else around you, and you can't even be honest about it. Emotional availability isn't just talking about your emotions. It's getting to the point of your emotions.
Oh God, the hand thing, dude. Don't ever date a chick that does that.
It is getting straight to the point, saying, "You know what? I don't feel good anymore. I don't feel good about this relationship. I don't like the way you treat me. I don't like the way this is going." Or straight up just, "Hey, I like you. I want to be with you. You're beautiful." Being direct. It's being emotionally available because you know what you want. Now, for women, we have labeled this as being something that we've always needed. You know, we need an emotionally available man.
Wait, what? No, no, no. You've been told for decades that you don't need men. Feminism has taught women that they need men like fish need a bicycle. That's what women have been saying, and that's not just verbally, but that's what they've been saying for years, for decades, with their actions. So, but yeah, it's the question is, do you deserve that kind of man? That's the question.
And I've made a video about emotional unavailability where you don't have to sit here and be fully available for all of your emotions. You don't. Because quite honestly, most men aren't that in tune with their emotions. A lot of men are. But
What? Most men aren't in tune with their emotions, but a lot of men are. What? That's a sloppy way to put it. Most men and a lot of men. I mean, most is a lot and a lot is a lot. So yeah, that doesn't really make sense. We'll get to that later. I'll touch on that.
Telling you right now, men don't have menstrual cycles, okay? You
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's true. Yeah.
know that, I know that. But to know what you want is an emotion in itself. It is part of your character, it is part of who you are, and you need to know what you want in life. Period. Guy or woman. A lot of women, we have so many emotions that we are tied to so many things that we want. We want a good career. We want children. We want these clothes. We want to get our nails done. We want to get our hair done. Maybe this color or that color. Or maybe we just want to do a home makeover, right? We think about these things all the time because we're so tied to our emotions. But the thing that that we lack in.
All right. So let's take a quick break from that. And yeah, so she is correct in rejecting the idea that emotional availability, it means talking about your feelings all the freaking time and crying on demand. Dude, never cry in front of a woman. Don't do it. Uh, and yeah, she pushes back on the modern narrative that emotional openness, it equals constant emotional expression. That part is accurate. Not every emotion needs to be shared, and indiscriminate vulnerability is pretty immature. So yeah, and she's also right that women, they respond to clarity and directness from a man. A man who knows what he wants and can communicate it clearly is way more attractive than a man who is uncertain of himself, who is passive, and who is indecisive, right? And yeah, and she's correct that emotional unavailability, it can be internal. Uh, a man who doesn't know what he wants, what he needs, or what he stands for is not grounded. He isn't. And that lack of internal clarity, it shows up in his relationships. And this is exactly where the concept of individuation comes into play. It's extremely relevant. So, as Carl Jung describes, individuation it's the process by which a man becomes internally whole, right? He's integrating his strengths, his flaws, his aggression, his fears, his ambitions, and his dark impulses. All of that into a coherent self. Men who do not go through this process, they oftentimes they lack internal clarity, and that lack of integration, it shows up as passivity and emotional reactivity and or dependence in their interpersonal lives. And where her argument really breaks down is that she collapses emotional availability into decisiveness and leadership. And those traits, they overlap, sure, but they are not the same thing. A man can be decisive and confident and verbally direct while still being emotionally disconnected and avoidant or unintegrated. Emotional availability, it's not just knowing what you want, it's knowing what you feel, regulating it, and choosing when and how to express it. And from the Jungian perspective, this is the difference between surface confidence and individuation. A man who has not integrated his shadow, he may appear decisive on the outside, right? But on the inside, internally, he's fragmented. And that fragmentation, it will inevitably leak into his relationships through anger and withdrawal and resentment and just a cocktail of volatility. And Kira, she treats emotions I would say, in a purely instrumental way. They're only framed as signals for wants and needs. What's missing is internal regulation, right? How a man handles these emotions, how he handles anger and resentment and fear and jealousy and all that stuff, because those are the emotions that can cause real damage if they're acted on impulsively. Emotional maturity, it's not just expression, it's containment and control. And this is precisely the discipline that individuation develops in men. And so yeah, and then also her framing centers female perception as the metric, the measuring stick. And much of the argument, it's built around how a woman will interpret a man's behavior, whether she sees him as unsure or questionable or unreliable, right? And so that turns emotional availability into a performance for approval rather than an internal capacity. A man's emotional grounding, it should exist regardless of how it's received. If his stability depends on validation, then he's not stable. And then, yeah, she further lowers the bar by making that sloppy and contradictory claim about men and emotional awareness when she says that most men aren't very in tune with their emotions, but then immediately says that a lot of men are. And so, yeah, there's no real way to quantify that proportion. But yeah, the way that she presented it, I think that was it weakens her argument or her point. Because yeah, you can't simultaneously claim that most men lack emotional awareness while conceding that many do, at least without defining what either claim actually means. But yeah, and then one huge piece that's missing from this that she ignores is the role that the feminization of men has played in creating many of the very problems that women are now complaining about. Men were told to be emotionally available, to open up and express themselves and to share their inner world, right? And many men, they did exactly that. And what happened? Well, you have countless cases where they shared something in confidence and then it was later weaponized against them, right? It was used to shame them or discredit them or just to gain some leverage over them. So yeah, the predictable result, it's not growth, it's going to be withdrawal. Men close off. Men stop taking chances. Men learn that vulnerability is punished. And a lot of men were raised by women who openly disliked and resented men and masculinity as a whole. Many men, they grew up in environments and milieus where the male behavior, it was pathologized and it was disciplined and it was shamed. All the while female behavior was excused and protected, usually in school, right? In school, that's where a lot of our earliest negative experiences with authority came from. And it wasn't from our male teachers, if there were any, but it was mostly from female teachers. And so I had my kindergarten teacher, she had a rule where you weren't allowed to cry. She had a poster board on her wall that she made. I mean, even if you bought it, if they had that to buy, that'd be messed up too. But she made this poster where she drew a stick figure of a boy crying and then had a circle with a slash through it that said no crying. So yeah, there's an example. It's sure it's anecdotal, but it's still a pretty good example. But yeah, those formative experiences are crucial. When boys are told early on that their emotional expression is either unacceptable or only acceptable on someone else's terms, they don't become emotionally mature. They become guarded. In that context, it's not surprising that many men struggle interpersonally. It isn't. And it's not a lack of emotional capacity. It's a learned self-protection response to inconsistent and punitive expectations. And so, but yeah, she avoids the most important emotions entirely. Anger, fear, resentment, jealousy. Like I said, if those are left unregulated, they destroy relationships. Emotional availability without regulation is a disaster waiting to happen. And yeah, she emphasizes expression and direction, but she neglects containment and integration. She's focusing on, saying how you feel, but not whether you should, really. And focusing on the clarity aspect and not the control aspect. And she brings up leadership behavior, but mentions nothing about emotional discipline. So, but yeah, I think individuation is the missing piece here. Masculinity is not the absence of emotion, nor is it emotional display. Masculinity is the capacity to carry emotional weight without leaking it onto others. And this part of the video of hers, it presents a partial truth as if it were a complete definition. It works as a correction to emotional sharing culture, but it stops short of actual emotional maturity. So far, I'm not convinced that emotional availability is the new masculinity. It's certainly not about, I don't know. It's just that women are not attracted to emotionally unregulated men. They aren't. They are not drawn to emotional displays of weakness, right? That gives them the ick. And so, I mean, what she is really describing, once the language is stripped down, is that women are attracted to men who are direct, who are grounded, decisive, and self-contained. In other words, she's describing confidence more than emotional availability. And she's also describing leadership behavior more than emotional integration. And I don't know if you caught this, but when she explains that women have so many emotions tied to what they want, the examples that she chooses are revealing. She lists career first, then children with a certain affectation, then immediately moves to clothes, nails, hair color, and makeovers. And with the exception of children in that list, the examples are overwhelmingly self-focused and material. And that matters because examples are not neutral. They reveal what someone prioritizes and what occupies their mental bandwidth. Subconsciously, this section, it shows that when she thinks about emotions tied to wants, her reference points are largely personal status and appearance and consumption. That is not what men prioritize. Men generally do not care if a woman is unemployed or earns a low salary. We do not care. What men care about is whether a woman is pleasant, cooperative, loyal, well kept. We don't want to look at homeless, and peaceful to be around. And yeah, basic self-care matters, but men do not value the level of vanity that women often invest in, right? The nails, the fake nails, the fake eyelashes, the hair color cycles, the constant makeovers. We don't care about that, not in the way that women believe we do. And that disconnect is important because it explains a lot of the miscommunications between the sexes. All right, so let's continue on with what she has to say. All right.
Is being truly direct with these emotions. Now, we might be emotionally available for them so that we can understand what we want and understand what we need, but we're not direct. We're not as linear as a man, where a man can sit here and be like, you know what? I want this car. I'm going to get this car. I want this job. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this job. It's kind of like blinders on a horse, right? You are only thinking about this one thing that you want, this one thing that you need, this one woman that you want, this one woman that you want to ask out, right? But it's all about being direct for a man. You can be so emotionally available that you talk about your emotions, right? There's so many men out here that are emotionally available that express themselves very well. They're charismatic, they make jokes, they can talk about their feelings, they can talk about it in a way that makes them feel masculating, like they are masculine, right? It's not emasculating to talk about your feelings. You're
Depends what they are.
not a robot, right? We are human beings. We have the right and we have the blessing and luxury to feel emotion. So to sit here and say you're not supposed to express yourself as a human being, that's ridiculous. That is honestly ridiculous. I'm telling you as a clarification that being emotionally available does not need to require you expressing so much like a woman. A woman can go on a rampage. To just clarify one point, like some of my videos, I can sit here and talk about so many different things, but the point of the matter is emotional availability. That's the point. That's the gist. That's the direct lead here. Women want that in men. We want emotional availability of directness and true honesty. What do you want? Lay it out plain and simple. What do you want? What do you want in a relationship? What do you want in a woman? What do you want in a career? What do you want in your life? What do you want in the future? Right? What do you want? What do you need? You should be able to say them directly if you are emotionally available as a man. As women, we end up knowing what we want. But usually,
No, you don't.
it takes having a man by our side to genuinely make these concrete decisions. And I'm not saying this is for every woman. There's a lot of very driven, hardworking women that.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Yeah, she's very correct that women are often indirect communicators, hands down. She openly admits that women, they struggle, yeah, to be direct, and they're not as linear as men. That is accurate. Many women, they do communicate as if a man is supposed to infer meaning and read emotional cues and just know what she wants, right? They're expected to be a mind reader. And this is one of the most common sources of conflict in relationships. Men communicate directly. Women often communicate contextually and emotionally. And when those styles clash, men are usually blamed for not understanding, right? Rather than women being expected to speak plainly. And so yeah, her admission here is actually one of the most honest moments of the video. But where this section really gets a little kittywampus is that she treats emotional expression as morally neutral across contexts. She argues that men should be free to express emotions because we're human, right? While simultaneously acknowledging that men shouldn't express emotions the way women do. And so yeah, there's a contradiction right there. Uh, and yeah, men should not share all of their emotions with women. Men need to be discerning about what they share, when they share it, and with whom. A man should a man can and should communicate far more openly with his male friends than with the woman he is romantically involved with. Male friendships are where men process anger and frustration and doubt and uncertainty, because other men, they understand those experiences and they don't reframe them or moralize them or weaponize them later. And women, generally speaking, they don't handle male emotional disclosure the way that men assume they will. And many men, they learn this the hard way. They open up because they were told to, only to have what they shared later used against them. That's just the reality. And yeah, and she repeatedly insists that women want men to clearly state what they want in relationships, in a woman, and in life. And yeah, on paper, sure, that sounds reasonable, but in practice, many women do not like the answers that men give. When men are honest about what they want, respect, cooperation, sexual loyalty, peace, trust in his leadership. Oh, and this triggers this triggers the feminist programming. Submission to his authority in the relationship. Yeah, that's the one. That's the hot button. That's when they go nuclear. That's many women, they react with hostility on that one. They will criticize the man. They'll accuse him of being controlling and insecure or oppressive, and then claim that he's emotionally unavailable for having preferences that, oh, I don't know, require them to change their behavior. And so, yeah, she never addresses that contradiction. And she says that, women want men to lead, but she ignores the reality that many women, they actively resist leadership once they realize it requires submission and trust and restraint on their part. What's backwards is they'll submit to a male boss at work, but they'll refuse to submit to the man they claim to love. And that cognitive dissonance it's central in modern dating problems. And yeah, she ends by saying that women, they often know what they want, but that it usually takes having a man by their side to make those decisions concrete. And what that admission does is it quietly undermines much of her earlier framing, because it suggests that women rely on male direction and structure and decisiveness to ground their wants into reality. In other words, men are expected to be clear and decisive and emotionally regulated and directive, all while women reserve the right to be emotionally fluid and indirect and reactive. And that there is no reciprocity in that. That is completely asymmetrical. But yes, I'd say that this part of the video, it contains moments of honesty, but it exposes fundamental imbalances in expectations. And yeah, she accurately describes how women feel and communicate, but she doesn't take responsibility for how that affects men. She asks men for clarity and honesty, and yet excuses female indirectness and emotional volatility and resistance to leadership. She doesn't even mention that at all. That doesn't come up, but that is a thing more than it's not. And yeah, men should absolutely be direct about what they want, but they should also expect pushback from it and criticism for doing so. And reality matters, and pretending otherwise, it sets men up to fail. So emotional context or emotional availability in this context is not about saying everything you feel. It's about knowing, like I said, what to share, who to share it with, and what consequences sharing will bring. And that discernment is something that men learn from experience, not from being told what women say they want. And preferably, you should learn from somebody else's experiences. You should learn from this video if you haven't yet made the mistake, so that way you don't have to. All right, but I'll stop it right there. I've left the link to her full video down below in the description if you want to watch the rest of it. But yeah, so I mean, I guess let's just go to the comment section here. Let's just see what people have to say. All right. Most women see emotions as a weakness in men. What they want versus what they say they want are never the same. Yep. A man who shows his emotions becomes prey. Yep. Never listen to a fish. That's right. If you're trying to catch a fish, you don't listen to a fish. And then Keira, you may have made a valiant effort to explain this concept, but I still have no idea what it is. And then this is either a woman or a simp. I see a new Keira video, I immediately click. Heart, smiley. Fellas, don't be emotionally available. They will weaponize it and use it against you. Yeah, like I told you guys. Like I told you. And that's the thing. She in the video, she continues to frame emotional availability as all of these different things. It has all these different emotions or all these different definitions. And that's what's we. I mean, what? Whatever she wants it to mean. She kind of changes definitions, right? She stretches it to mean different things depending on the point she's trying to make. So sometimes it means being direct. Other times it means expressing feelings, and sometimes it means masculinity itself. I mean, she's all over the place with it. And and the reason why I point that out is because when a concept means everything, it ends up meaning nothing. But it's just, yeah, she's correct that men shouldn't be paralyzed by fear of outcome, and they shouldn't, hide behind screens and avoid life. But it's just, I mean, dude, yeah, I'm not convinced that emotional availability is not the new masculinity as per her title. I think a more accurate translation is that women, they respond to men who are confident and grounded and decisive, socially capable, and emotionally self-contained. And that's nothing new or groundbreaking. It's not. So yeah, fellas, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this, it's that you don't let a woman tell you what masculinity is. Okay? And for the love of God and all things that are holy, do not book a call with her. All right? Book a call with me. My links are down below. And so is my connect with me number if you want to just chat for 5 or 10 minutes. Okay? All right? Well, that's all I got. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace.